I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 6 o'clock, and I will ask Laura Lee to please call the roll.
Here.
Let me turn on my thing. Pam Howard.
Here.
Don Kirk.
Here.
Barbara
I'm going to
Cruz.
call the meeting to order. It is 6 o'clock, and I will ask Laura Lee to please call the roll. This happened last time, too. I'm a
Pam Howard.
ventriloquist.
Don Kirk.
Here.
Barbara
I'm going to
Cruz.
call the meeting to order. And again. 6 o'clock. And I will ask Laura Lee to please call the roll. This happened last time, too. Okay, we're going to just wait a minute.
Should I go ahead?
I'm afraid to go again.
Barbara Cruz.
Here.
Alexandra Lessem.
Here.
Nancy Rumfelt.
Here.
That's it? Okay. Wasn't sure if there was going to be an echo again. Stu, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Stu. And Don, would you please read the mission statement?
The Thompson School District will be a school district that empowers, challenges, and inspires students, faculty, staff, parents, school leaders, and community members to learn, achieve, and excel.
Thank you. And we'll begin with the adoption of the agenda for today, September 20th, 2023. Are there any changes to the agenda for tonight's meeting?
Yes, I would like to move from the,
Nancy, we're going to do that when we get to,
Are we setting the agenda right now?
yeah.
She's permitted to.
Okay, go ahead.
oh,
Just
okay,
to let her go ahead and do it now, or, okay, go ahead.
okay. Remove from the consent agenda items 5.3 and 5.7.
5.3. And 5.7. I can't get my fingers to move. Okay. Laura Lee, will you renumber everything for us then at that point in time? Okay. So are there any additional changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I will take a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
So it was moved by Don and seconded by
I think a couple of us did it.
Okay.
Give it to somebody else.
Alexandra. All right. Laura Lee, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Amy Doran. Don Kirk.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Alexandra Lessem.
Aye.
Nancy Rumfelt.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. We will move to approval of the minutes, and we have two meeting minutes to approve. So we have 3.1, which is the approval of the minutes from August 16th, 2023. So let's begin with that one. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes from August 16th.
Second.
Okay, a first from Pam and a second from Stu. Laura Lee, would you please call the roll?
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Amy Doran. Don Kirk.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Alexandra Lessem.
Aye.
Nancy Rumfelt.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries. And then we'll move on to approval of the minutes for September 6th, which was our most recent meeting, September 6th, 2023. Does anybody have any changes or corrections to the minutes for this study session on September 6th? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes for September 6th, 2023.
So
Aye. Okay.
Stu, and then Nancy?
I'll second.
Thank you. Stu and then Nancy. Laura Lee, will you please call the roll?
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Amy Doran. Dawn Kirk.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Alexandra Lessem.
Aye.
Nancy Rumpfelt.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes, so the minutes have all been approved. We will move on now to public participation, and we'll begin with Dr. Schaefer's report.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the Board of Education. I would like to provide to you an update on some of the events and happenings in the district over the past month. And so we'll open with the Corn Roast Parade. The 2023 Loveland Corn Roast Festival was held last month. Myself, members of the Thompson School District Board of Education, district staff, family members, and friends had a wonderful time marching in this year's event. Hosted by the Loveland Chamber of Commerce, the festival is an annual tradition that brings the community together for food, fun, live music, and an excellent parade. It was great to see so many in attendance. In celebration of first responders, Lorraine Edmondson Elementary School held a First Responder Day on September 8th. Numerous ambulance, fire, and law enforcement vehicles were on site, along with a featured demonstration from the UC Health Lifeline helicopter. It was a terrific opportunity for students to learn more about the amazing first responder teams who work together to support our community. What you see there is our Tech for All logo. This year, each district-provided device for students has been labeled with a new sticker created through a partnership with our ITS team. 3 Riverview Pre-K-8 students submitted logo ideas in the spring of the 22-23 school year. The ITS department then took components of each design to create a logo for our Tech for All program. On Thursday, August 31st, ITS staff recognized the accomplishments of the 3 chosen artists. The team also gave each student a set of gifts in appreciation for their creative contributions to our new Tech for All logo. Congratulations to Riverview students Grace Hildman, Isabel McKinney, and Scarlett Conkey. Grandparents' Day was celebrated at several of our schools during the first few weeks of September. Multiple elementary campuses hosted breakfast sessions or luncheons to honor grandparents and other important people in their students' lives. Celebrations such as these provide a great opportunity for community members to tour our buildings, meet our staff, and for the students to show off their work. This month, students at High Plains School hosted a kickoff for the campus's Student Spaceflight Experiments program. All students in grades 6 through 8 are competing in teams to design, create, and write research proposals for experiments on microgravity. In November, the top 3 team proposals will be selected by a local board of experts to be sent to the National Step 2 Review Board, where one proposal will be chosen to make its trip to space to the International Space Station next spring or summer. Last week, Loveland High School hosted a visit by the International Baccalaureate Equity and Access Advisory Team, which is touring select IB programs within the state. The visiting team includes international advisors from the Netherlands, Australia, Washington, D.C., and Denver. Staff members worked with the group to explore opportunities for the school to expand their IB presence with equity and access for all students. On September 12th, the High Plains school community came together to celebrate the completion of the new expansion at the school. The expansion project includes new classroom space, plus an additional gymnasium, performance area, and athletic fields. The new spaces offer the additional room that is needed to further enhance programs and activities at the school, while also providing additional capacity for future enrollment. Last week on September 14th, we also celebrated the official grand opening of Peakview Academy at Conrad Ball. The school opened last month as a full-service preschool through 8th grade campus, consolidating the school communities of Conrad Ball Middle School, Mary Blair Elementary, and Monroe Elementary schools. Renovations within the building include classroom and media center additions, an expansion of the auxiliary gymnasium, and other various improvements. As a reminder to our community, our District Board of Education will once again be hosting a public engagement session this coming Saturday. The forum will provide an opportunity for members throughout our community to meet board members, learn more about their work, ask questions, and share their thoughts. Additional information can also be found on our website, in local newspapers, and on social media. We look forward to seeing you at this upcoming forum. This past week, and I'm going to ask Jessica to stand and come forward, and Jessica, I'll read some nice things, and then you can. So, yep, come on up. This past week, the Colorado Department of Education announced the 7 finalists for the 2024 Colorado Teacher of the Year. Congratulations to our very own Jessica May. During the time of the application, Jessica was teaching at Conrad Ball Middle School. She is now teaching Family and Consumer Science at Turner Middle School in Berthoud. Jessica was named the Thompson Education Foundation's Teacher of the Year for the secondary level in 2020. The 2024 CDE Teacher of the Year winner will be announced in the coming weeks. Thank you, Jessica, for your exceptional dedication and passion for your work, and we're really proud of you. Congrats.
Thank you so much.
So now we're moving on to our Top of Thompson and Community Champion recognitions for the month of September. I'll remind the board that each month we recognize a member from our classified, licensed, and APT staff. These are peer-nominated awards to recognize excellence. And so we have 2 of the 3 categories here today. So I'm going to introduce, let's see, I'll have Claire Doyle. Claire nominated Kim Schlotz, and Kim is a librarian at Turner Middle School. So Kim and Claire, if you would come forward to the podium, and Claire, I'll ask you to read your words for Kim, and this is for classified.
Kim came to Turner a number of years ago as our librarian. I am extremely impressed with the way she has embraced a huge change in her position. Ms. Schlotz loves to read, and she really enjoys sharing her love of reading with students when they come in. The students like to share their thoughts about the books they are reading. The technology has become a huge part of her position now. There are students in and out of her office all day long with computer issues. Some are looking for a computer to borrow. Others have issues with their Chromebooks not working properly. Ms. Schlotz has become quite an expert on resolving their technology issues on her own. She saves the technology department a lot of time. Ms. Schlotz also covers our lunch supervision inside and out for all 3 grades. She greets the students warmly at the door in the morning when they come in for breakfast. She greets all of my ILC students with a smile on her face every day and interacts with them. Ms. Schlotz has been a very important member of our staff. She is loved and appreciated. I enjoy working with her, and it is an honor for me to work with her all these years.
Kim, congratulations. And Kim, we have Kim, we have a Lucite. Okay, we have an award at the podium if you want to. Yep. Sorry about that. Just if you can grab that would be terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. Next, we want to recognize our licensed staff member for September. Becca Natwick, who is a counselor at Riverview, was nominated by Kate Wines. And so Kate and Becca, if you can both come forward, please.
Becca is a leader in the counseling department for the ways that she has taken on so many students that range from kindergarten all the way up to middle school. She has taken on the role of leading out SEL curriculum, informing us about best practices when it comes to students who are working through trauma, and always checks in on the well-being of staff members. Becca is great at communication and all types of communication. She is a bridge between parents and admin, parents and staff, students and staff, as well as student to student. Her positive nature and calming presence allows all that she interacts with to feel heard, valued, and appreciated. Becca is innovative in the ways that she provides staff and students with strategies, information, and an open ear for additional options in the classroom. She has helped create safe spaces, chill corners, and environments of comfort that allow students to drop their walls enough for her to really get to the heart of the issue, and more importantly, the heart of the student. Becca is always there for support, and if she can't be there physically, she will be the first one to Google Chat, email, or text you to let you know that you have her backing and support. She will always touch base after meetings and follow up with teachers and staff about concerns, questions, and suggestions. She makes it well known and is felt that she is always there for whatever you need for both staff and students. She helps lighten the load and is the positivity that brightens our days at Riverview.
Congratulations, Becca. That's awesome. So for APT, I have the honor of recognizing Lisa Kendall, who was not able to be here tonight. But Lisa is our director at Nutrition Services, and she was nominated by Kylie Baker. And so I'm going to read Kylie's words for you. Lisa displays leadership by taking the time to schedule one-on-one meetings with her direct reports and always offers suggestions of articles to read, trainings to attend, and opportunities for growth. She seeks feedback from kitchen staff by hosting Nutrition Services Advisory Committee meetings and encouraging participation from all department staff. Lisa is an excellent communicator and takes the time to respond to urgent situations, even when out of the office. She communicates with her direct reports and kitchen staff regarding changes to operations. This school year, we found that we needed to update our hair restraint policy to comply with federal and local health department guidelines. Lisa immediately put this on the agenda for the next staff training opportunity and has been communicating with all staff during implementation of this policy change. Lisa is an asset to TSD because of her school nutrition specialist credential. With her background as a pastry chef, she has translated her culinary knowledge into a career based on knowledge of food and nutrition, as well as USDA and state regulations. She always demonstrates good customer service in working with schools. She ensures that Nutrition Services is following all policies and procedures while being flexible to meet the needs of schools. So if Lisa was here, we would tell her we're super proud of her, but congratulations to Lisa Kendall for this recognition. And so starting this year, we have a new category, and this is our Community Champion Award. And so the Community Champion Award, we have many organizations, nonprofits, community partners, individuals who make a difference in our schools each and every day. And so this is an award that is submitted by employees of the Thompson School District, and there is a committee similar to the Committee for Top of Thompson that reads through the nominations and then makes a selection. So for our very first Community Champion Award, we have actually two nominees, and so I'm going to invite up Karen Hanford and Kevin Clark. And the community champion for September is Subaru of Loveland. So I'm going to ask all of you to please come forward, and we'll have, yep.
It's my honor to be here to celebrate our relationship with Subaru of Loveland. I know that they have supported our district for many years in many ways, but they specifically have been supporting Truscott Elementary School. So Chris Gebhardt and his wife Susie have joined us this evening, and we're really grateful for their ongoing support of Truscott. So Subaru of Loveland has supported Truscott Elementary School by providing school supplies, materials, playground equipment, helping us meet the needs of our students every single day. For the past 3 years, they have donated $500 to $600 to 10 to 12 of our teachers each year through the Adopt a Classroom program. This has allowed our teachers to buy additional classroom materials, supporting our students in many different ways. Another way they have supported is just jumping in with a coat drive when needed. We are so grateful for Subaru of Loveland and their continued support of our students, families, and staff. So thank you so much, Chris. Thank you very much.
Subaru of Loveland does so much for the Thompson School District and the programs we support. Many of the great things they do, they want to go unrecognized for. Countless times, they have remained anonymous as they have donated to the community. The Student Athlete Fund that we run through TEF was started with a conversation with Chris Gebhardt, the general manager of Subaru of Loveland. He wanted to have a way to meet the needs of the student athletes in the Thompson School District who maybe couldn't afford the equipment they needed to compete in sports. They want our students and families to have a first-class experience. That's why they became a title sponsor for Ray Patterson Stadium's video board. Subaru of Loveland is also a huge sponsor of Kids Pack and the Boys and Girls Club. Both of the organizations directly benefit the families of the Thompson School District. Subaru of Loveland is actively living out their vision within Thompson School District. Their vision statement is believe in making the world a better place, and the Subaru Love Promise is their vision of respecting all people. This is their commitment to show the love and respect to their customers and to work to make a positive impact in the world. That's the reason I nominated Subaru of Loveland. Yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations. So, Chris, we're going to ask you to stay up there, and I'm also going to invite up Jessica, Kim, and Becca. We'd like to take a picture with you at the Board of Education, so if you all can just come forward.
You squish in just a little bit for me. There we go. Okay. All right, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Good.
So each month, or actually at each meeting, we invite a school to present to the Board of Education and Community some of the amazing things that are happening on their campus. So I'm going to invite up Mr. Theo Robeson, who is our Executive Director of Secondary Schools, and Theo will introduce our guest for tonight.
Greeting, Madam President, Dr. Schaefer, members of the board. I'm pleased to be here tonight to welcome one of our transformational leaders, Brandy Greaves, here, and her Turner Middle School students to present their school presentation tonight. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us. With me tonight, I have Bella Davis and Levi Chagrin and Piper Moss, and they are going to present some things that are happening at Turner. They are super excited about our innovation labs, and so we're going to do a little hands-on thing as well. Hit this button.
Okay, what does it mean to be a dragon?
It means you are a part of our family, our dragon family.
What does it look like to be a part of our dragon family?
Each day, every one of us practices being a pro by using perseverance, showing respect, and taking ownership.
We are a PBIS school, so we have a pro matrix for all areas of the building, including when we practice and talk about our standard response safety drills.
Here's an example of our pro matrix in the lunchroom.
Here's an example of our pro matrix in safety drills.
Students belong to one of the 8 castles.
These castles are fire, water, wind, time, energy, rock, ice, and metal.
Did you know TMS is a Sources of Strength school? We use Character Strong lessons in our pro classes.
Pop quiz. Do you know the name of our mascot?
Cobalt is the name of our mascot.
Tonight we want to showcase our innovation lab.
Our innovation lab has a computer science center with augmented and virtual reality, a health and medical zone with biotechnology, and a fluid works, which is aviation and watercraft, with a flight simulator.
What is the student experience, you may be asking?
So this is the flight simulator that we have. This is part of the medical section of the Innovation Lab. Still part of the medical section.
This is an example of us using the science part with beakers and microscopes. This is highly scientific, using the beakers. Yeah.
The reason that we wanted to showcase our innovation lab is because the student experience in it is just so amazing. We, all of the students that I've talked to just love the innovation lab, and I personally want to be a pilot when I grow up, and so every second that I can, I'm in there on the flight simulators, and it's just really fun to be in there.
Okay, I'll be presenting an experiment today. It is about how enzymes can help clean stuff, and there's different types of stuff. So in front of you have cloth, a package of ketchup, water, a measuring beaker, and 4 different cups. One cup has detergent, the other one has enzymes and detergent, enzymes and water. To start this experiment, you need to get your 4 cloths of ketchup, 4 cloths of cloth, and smear ketchup on them. All 4, yes.
Use your teeth. It won't take the experiment. Just a little bit. Now that you have the ketchup smearing thing, you're gonna want to put 20 milliliters of water in each thing, or cup. So for the water, provide you with water. On each cup, yes.
It's not gonna ruin it?
Oh, no.
That works. Trying to go quick. I'm just gonna hold this.
Okay, once you get all the water in the cup, you're gonna put, okay, sorry.
We only have 10 minutes. I'm trying to be mindful of time.
Okay, once you have finished, you're gonna put each ketchup in each of the cups. So, like if they got the cloth, just dip it in there. Yep, make sure it's all submerged in the water. And now we're gonna mix it around for a few minutes, and we're gonna see the reaction comes, which one cleans it the best and which one doesn't. So you're just gonna kind of stir it around like this for a little bit. What? The one that cleans up the ketchup the most, surprising, the top two is detergent, and then the top.
Stop you for a second. So start over. That way everybody can hear. What you're going to tell them now is what actually happens in the experiment.
Okay.
Yep, you're doing great.
So what happens in the experiment is you're testing which cup cleans the best. So from my test I've done, the detergent and enzyme cleans it the best. Well, for the reasons, detergent cleans the best because we use that mostly every day for our cleaning, for getting stains and everything off clothes. And enzymes are used to either build up material or take off material. So, and with the detergent and enzymes, that causes a reaction for it to be mostly removed. You guys have any questions? On anything.
Have you done this experiment with other things besides ketchup?
I have not yet.
Okay, cool. How'd you decide ketchup?
Well, I actually just, in the innovation lab, we get assigned experiments. For me, I'm in GT, so I get assigned experiments every time I go into that class. And my first experiment I was assigned to was the enzymes. So I didn't, and we saw ketchup, and we used ketchup. So. Any other questions?
I have a comment. So I texted my husband and said, hey, they're doing flight simulator, and a student said that she wants to be a pilot, and she's in there every minute. And I can't quote him exactly because he was so excited. He said a word you're not allowed to say. And then he said, that is dope on top of it. So he's really, really excited that that's part of what you do. So thanks for sharing that.
Any other questions or? The winner is the detergent and the enzymes and the detergent together.
Really nice job. We'd be honored if we could take a picture with you all. Is that good? Okay.
Oh, you guys did awesome.
All right. Yes. All right. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Good. Thank you.
I think it's expired.
So again, PCC, Professional Concerns Committees, we met to discuss the fall variances for parent-teacher conferences and to identify topics for review for this school year. I also wanted to share that at the end of August, I believe it was, Barb Cruz and I were able to attend a meeting of the TSD chapter of Alpha Delta Kappa, and that is the International Honorary Organization for Women Educators. The meeting that we attended had both retired and current teachers. We answered questions that the teachers had about board decision-making and lessons learned from the pandemic. And we just answered general audience questions, and it was a great opportunity for us.
So I am the representative on the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, the CBOC committee, that we had our first meeting of the fall just last week. And it was very interesting. So that project, it's very nearing the end of its life. The bond was approved in 2018 and has a 5-year, basically, life. So we're in the very, very end. And so at that committee meeting, the members talked mostly about how the funds had been reconciled and how, what started out with this, a lot of money to be spent. Now pretty much all of it has been spent and lots of really great projects have been done. So kind of reviewing that and seeing where we were, and then looking at the money that's left over, the contingency funds that was held onto in case there were unexpected needs along the way, which there were. Now is the time to finish using up that money. So the committee reviewed some different options of how to do that and what would be the best use of the money remaining. And I think we will hear that, I think, from Todd maybe in our next meeting, what their recommendations were moving forward. And so it's always a fun, a fun committee to be a part of and to listen to. It's a great group, and they were very impressed, as always, and as I am, with the oversight of the bond by our bond managers and by the bond team. That what started as about a $140 million bond ended up being about $200 million that we had to spend through matching grants and wise strategies for that money. So that was pretty cool to talk about and have them mention that as well.
So I'll do a quick update that the security new group, that is the public committee, the first one, had 50 applicants and everybody is going to get to join. So that's very exciting. But what I really wanted to talk about, and I asked for permission, is about the Matthews House Gala. So just last week, I don't know, close-ish, the Matthews House hosted an event as a fundraiser. They do it every year, but this year they're really focused on building funds for the youth shelter that's being built. So they're going to do the operations. We're helping with the constructions and the building. And it was, as someone who's been part of this for many years now, I thought I knew it all, and they did a great job of sharing the real impact of students who don't have a place to sleep. With some storytelling, it featured our superintendent and Kim Akeley-Sharon, who is the executive director of TEF, as well as students from across Larimer County who are struggling with homelessness. And so I think we're going to get an update in more detail than what I can provide in that, but I really just wanted to boost that to say that even when we think we understand these challenges, it is really hard for us to understand them if we're not experiencing it ourselves. And so I'm really grateful that we had a chance to hear from some students on what that might be like.
Thank
you. Well, this is my second to last business meeting of my 10 years of serving on the board. And one of the recurring themes, Barb was like, well, you could start reflecting on your decade. And one of the recurring themes throughout all the various committees I've served on in the past 10 years, and then before that with my kids' schools and that sort of thing, would be collaboration. And, excuse me, and not just collaboration amongst our educators and our staff. It's collaboration with our community. Nonprofits like Grace Upon Grace and Kids Pack, businesses like Subaru, who we acknowledge tonight, service leagues like Kiwanis and Rotary, who constantly support our kids. And there's just so many opportunities for our community to really get involved with our school district, and I think that is one of the strengths of Thompson School District, is that we welcome everyone and we work together within our communities. You know, last year, we don't have the numbers, I don't think, yet for this school year, but last year we had over 5,000 families who were on free and reduced lunch. We had over 800 students who experienced different types of homelessness during the year. And that's something that we need to keep front and center of our minds every day, whether we're visiting classrooms or hearing about classrooms and schools, because it does affect our kids. Two current happenings going on right now that people can get or help out with. The clothing closet is run with our school district, and that helps our students get much needed clothing. You know, tennis shoes, everything's expensive, right? Tennis shoes, jeans. So the clothing closet is at the Community Connections building, and that's 1307 East 5th Street. The clothing closet, in conjunction with Community Connections, is looking for donations of not just new or lightly used clothing, pre-K through 12th grade. They're also looking for things like laundry detergent, because they have to wash, you know, everything that comes in the door that's a donation. So those are things that folks can help out with. If you don't want to drop something off, you can also go online and donate to Community Connections Clothing Closet, sorry to say, from our Thompson Education Foundation website. The other thing is, kind of in conjunction with what Dawn mentioned, is we are looking for students and student voice. There is going to be a meeting about the homeless youth shelter. So we want to hear from the kids, right? This meeting is next Wednesday, the 27th. It's downtown at the Loveland Public Library. It's from 4:30 to 6:30. So if you know of any students who might be willing to come share their thoughts and experiences, maybe their hopes and dreams, their ideas for our homeless youth shelter, that's next Wednesday at the Loveland Public Library, 4:30 to 6:30. Thanks.
Thank you, Pam. Stu?
All right. This morning, I met with the board of the Berthoud Schools Fund, which is the organization that sponsors the annual event called the Berthoud Bash. I'm an ex officio member of that particular board. You heard Turner Middle School praised tonight with a staff member who was chosen for a Top of Thompson award. You saw the presentation by the students. You met Jessica May, who is one of the finalists for Colorado Teacher of the Year. And through efforts by the Berthoud Schools Fund, funds raised by the Berthoud Bash, the students in Berthoud have been able to benefit in a variety of ways, including the students at Turner Middle School. This particular nonprofit, which is related to the Thompson Education Foundation, has raised $2 million for Berthoud schools in the last 14 years. And so it's an example of a school-based or a community-based organization within the Thompson School District. As you probably know, schools have PTOs and things like that, and this is just another way that a community organization is benefiting the schools, and I'm proud to be an ex officio member of that board.
Thank you. Nancy?
I have two other committees besides the DAC, and the JIC just got started, and it has a lot of new members, so we didn't cover much this last week. And then the Communications and Advisory hasn't started up yet, and that one meets about 4 times a year. And so not a lot I can report on at that for this moment, but I would like to at least recognize that on Sunday, Sunday was Constitution Day, and so in 1787, we signed the Constitution, and it became the formal rule of this country. And this country, in my opinion, is one of the greatest on the earth. And this was our guiding document to guide this great experiment of 50 states that make up the federal government. And so I think it's always important to remember our roots, and September 17th, 1787 was the beginning of ours.
I have 3 committees that I'm a part of regularly, and then I try to fill in for the people who have a little trouble getting to their committee meetings once in a while. And so was able to sit in on MPC this last time. That's the Master Plan Committee. I also, the PI, the Partners in Education, which is an early childhood committee, meets monthly, and their report is always attached to one of our agendas, and so that's always published. Last time I reported on the CMAC, which is the Citizens Mill Levy Override Audit Committee, and we had that meeting this week, and always have a lot of new knowledge about what's happening with our budget when I listen to Gordon speak on everything. But then this last week, I attended the SEAC, which is the Special Education Advisory Committee. And this is a committee that is getting back up and running and has a good mission in where they're going. They have been working on recommendations and tracking the form that it takes to get everything into place so that it can eventually open back up so that everybody who has students that have special needs, their parents can be a part of this committee. So that's meets quarterly? Monthly. That one's monthly. We have to keep a calendar of where we have to go, when we have to be there, just so we know that we get to everything that we're going to do. So I think that's everybody's committees for this meeting. And so we're going to move into public comments. And Stu, would you share the guidelines for it?
Which way to push the button? Yeah. Because the board wants to hear the viewpoints of the public and also needs to conduct its business in an orderly and efficient manner, it will schedule time during its regular board meetings for brief comments and questions from the public. The board will set a time for public participation prior to the business portion of the meeting. The time for each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes, and each individual will only be recognized once. If there's a large number of speakers, the board may elect to take comments for 1 hour before the business meeting and conclude public comment after the business meeting. Public comments and questions at a regular meeting may deal with any topic related to the board's conduct of the schools. Speakers may offer such criticism of school operations and programs as concern them, but are encouraged to exercise their speech rights responsibly. Personnel matters will be discussed in executive session.
Turn it over to Dawn, who will monitor the process.
So you'll have 3 minutes. When you start speaking, the light will turn green up here. We've moved it up here now. And then when you have 30 seconds left, the yellow light will come on and there'll be a beep. And when you are out of time, it will flash red and make a noise until you get finished. So please wrap up, starting with the yellow light. And then Lori Goebel is first.
Good evening, President Cruz, board members, Dr. Schaefer, staff, and members of our community. First of all, happy Constitution Week. As you know, I've been here before you in May and in August, and then you each received an email from me. And I want to first of all thank Dr. Schaefer for his very prompt response in getting back to me and then forwarding my email on. And then also to President Cruz for her response as well. And then to Dr. Schneider, who's our Chief Academic Officer, for providing me with the information that she did. And also to Board Member Nancy Rumfeld. We had a conversation in passing about Constitution Day as well. So thank you, Nancy. I appreciate that. So I am truly looking forward to what I'm going to hear back from the schools as far as what they're all doing, most likely on Monday, since that was actual Constitution Day and Citizenship Day. And then hopefully that we'll hear part of Dr. Schaefer's report. Maybe next month may include some of the activities that some of the schools had going on. And I just would like to offer the Constitution coaches continued assistance with any help that the school district may need with this in the future. So thank you for your time, and blessings to each of you.
Consent is active, meaning that a parent has to give. Good evening, Heather Van Bentham, Berthoud. I presented a 4-part Healthy Kids Colorado survey discussion during public comment last year and wanted to follow up. The district has just sent me the following bullet points. The Healthy Kids survey will be in January with dates to be finalized. Consent is active, meaning that a parent has to give permission for their student to participate. Because the survey is not for several months, we do not have any finalized communication drawn up. Communication will go out at least 2 weeks prior to the survey. Survey questions were recently released to the district by the state of Colorado, and we are in the process of reviewing them. The communication that is provided to families will include a copy of the survey content. The list of schools participating has not yet been finalized, but the survey will be only for grades 7 through 12. I was also told, quote, the test is taken on servers maintained by the state of Colorado. TSD does not host the survey or choose the specific questions that are asked from the overall list. When the survey is administered, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment provides a link for the student to take the test, and those questions are then chosen from the overall list, unquote. I am thrilled that TSD has decided on active consent. This is a true indication of concerns being heard and addressed. Thank you for choosing an opt-in. I'm also very glad parents will receive survey content ahead of time. Be on the lookout for parental notification and opt-in letters. I remain deeply concerned about the survey itself. Multiple taxpayer-funded state of Colorado departments and medical educational facilities are behind it, as well as, quote, an advisory group of state and local partners, unquote. Who's that? The survey questions and subsequent results analysis focus heavily on sexual and gender identification and practices. They say it's completely anonymous, but there's no way to prove that. This survey is strangers asking very personal questions to your children. While it isn't an assignment, it's given in the classroom during school hours and sure looks like one. Kids' brains don't have the decades of experience that ours have. Those behind the survey pay the district for doing it. Your children are their commodity, and the survey is called an instrument. Who are these people? We don't know and can't ask them what they do with the data they are mining from our school kids. We don't know what groups might tap into the back end of this and get that data for their own uses. Do a search to find the official colorado.gov website for the Healthy Kids Colorado Survey. You can see questions asked in previous years. Do your own research and then decide whether you want your kids to participate. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Seaton. I live in Berthoud, and I'm a Thompson School District parent and volunteer. My topic tonight is a 2024 Mill and Bond Levy Initiative request. As you are well aware, Larimer County is growing by leaps and bounds, and I recently heard that Larimer County alone has contributed to 15% of the state's growth just this last year. I feel Berthoud is a major contributor to that growth and has no plans for stopping. Just this last week, the Revere Neighborhood Master Plan was announced, bringing 31 single-family homes and 222 multifamily residential units west of town. This is in addition to the Ludlow Farms development, with over 750 homes centrally in town, and another development with plans for over 500 homes just east of town. At this rate of growth, our current schools and staff will not be able to accommodate this community any longer. After a successful 2018 bond initiative, we were able to get additions to the schools to help with increased rounds and crowding. However, these additions were put onto already aging infrastructure and are having problems like sewage backups and roof leaks. Today, I'm advocating to the board to proceed with a mill levy and bond initiative for the 2024 ballot. This needs to include a new school for Berthoud and not another plan for additions to existing schools. The sites and even town road infrastructure at both the elementary schools and the high school and Turner cannot accommodate doubling the size of our student populations. If you feel in any inkling that these additions could work, I encourage you to speak with any of our amazing custodial staff or just sit in your car and observe the traffic patterns alone in the mornings at any of our Berthoud schools. Then maybe you'll have a different perspective. This mill levy will also help to increase staff funding to recruit and retain. We can look to provide additional support staff at competitive wages. We are already struggling to obtain support staff at all levels of the district, from paraprofessionals to bus drivers. We need consistent mill levies to provide competitive, or even, dare I say, the highest paying wages to bring in the kind of support our staff and our students deserve. Now, while paying increased property taxes after a record high assessment year is the bottom of my list of things I'd like to do, I know it's the right thing to do, and I know you do too. It's the right thing for the children in our community and the amazing school staff that continue to provide year and year, over and over again, beyond their means. Thank you for your time.
This concludes our public comment time. All right, we will move into action consent items. And these are going to be the topics that we worked with during our study session earlier this month. And we're taking 2 off the list, which would be 5.3 and 5.7. So the numbers will be redone. 5.1 will be approval of personnel. 5.2, approval of expenditures. 5.3 will be approval of second reading of 2 different policies, 5.3, 5.4, and then 5.5, approval of the bond-related contracts will be what we're going to be working with during our action consent. So with the removal of the 2 items, approval of Centerra South Urban Renewal Authority, URA Intergovernmental Agreement, IGA, and with removal of approval of the contract with Colorado Energy Office and Schneider Electric. So I will take a motion to, well, let me read through all of them real quickly, and then I'll take a motion to approve the items that are remaining on action consent. So 5.1 is the approval of personnel extra duty coaching recommendations. 5.2, approval of expenditures over $50,000. 5.3 is the approval of Centerra South Urban Renewal Authority. Nope, that's one pulled. I'm sorry. 5.3 is the approval of second reading policy JFBA, JFBB, and regulation JFBB. Let me try that again. JFBA, JFBB-R, which is choice enrollment, which we discussed at our study session. Then 5.4 will be approval of the second reading policy ICA, school calendar. And 5.5, which is the approval of bond-related contracts and the associated adjusted project budget for the budget for work at the administration building. I think I did that right. Okay. All right. So I will take a motion.
So moved.
To approve those items. Thank you. Don?
I'm not going to say them all again.
No.
It was, yeah, you covered
I
it.
need a drink of
Thank
water
you.
now.
Second.
And Pam. So motion made by Don and seconded by Pam. All right. Laura Lee, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Amy Doran.
Aye.
Don Kirk.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Alexandra Lessem.
Aye.
Nancy Rumpfelt.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. Thank you. All right. So we're going to move now into a new item on our list will be 6.6. The sixth item, which will be discussion action. We will first talk about 6.1. 6.1 will be the reapproval, oh my gosh, reapproval of Centerra South Urban Renewal Authority, the URA, Intergovernmental Agreement, IGA. And Nancy, you asked that this be pulled. Could you please explain? And I just need to know if you're seeking clarification or what.
I pulled it because I'm seeking to have a standalone vote on it.
Okay, all right. Does anybody have any questions or discussions about that? Okay.
Actually,
Yes.
I wonder, is it appropriate to ask Gordon to review the essence of this agreement? I don't know if this is an appropriate request.
Well, I think since we had our discussion at our study session, and there were no questions that came up at that point in time, I just feel like, but
Okay.
I will do whatever you feel is what you
Well,
need.
I guess it's what the board wants to do.
Yeah, does the board need discussion on it, or are you ready to possibly move it to a vote?
I would like to. Before a vote, Robert's rules, there should be discussion.
And I did ask for it.
No, you asked if there was a reason why I wanted this pulled. So now, is there discussion?
Point of order.
Okay.
So, yes, board members have the right to engage in discussion. Oops. Board members can engage in discussion. If board members would like any additional information, Gordon Jones is available to provide that information.
Okay,
I'm
thank
not
you.
sure I would have him do a full presentation, but if there's specific questions, he's available for that.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we need, is there a discussion you want to have, Nancy?
If I can be allowed.
Well, sure.
I simply pulled this from the consent agenda. At the study session, the consent item was pushed through. There wasn't any discussion. B, I am going to vote no on this, not because of anything that's been misrepresented or anything. It's just, for me, it's a matter of principle. I disagree with the premise of agricultural land being used for urban renewal projects. It's not meant, or it never intended to be, a way for developers to subsidize their infrastructure costs. I voted no on this the first time, and so I'm simply being consistent and voting no the second time.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Is there any further discussion? Since there isn't any further discussion, I will entertain a motion to move this item from a discussion to an action item for a vote.
I move that we move it to an action item.
And is there a second to move it to a vote?
Second.
Okay, so we have Dawn and we, Sue, are you still needing?
Well, I'm assuming you're going to ask for discussion on this motion that's now been seconded, and at that point, then I'm going to
Okay.
ask for Gordon
Okay.
to summarize the essence of the agreement that we reached. What was the purpose of it? What does it actually say? What really is it that we agreed to?
So point of order, we do have a motion and a second to, which we can. I mean, we're moving it basically now to position it for a vote. I would recommend moving it to action, and then at that point, you can reopen it up for discussion if you want.
So we have to move it to an action, and then we
It's
can have
technically
further-
in discussion action right now.
Okay.
So we can move it, you can remove it to action, or we can actually vote on it. But first, I think Stu would like some
I
additional.
think you understand what my intention is. I'm happy with having it proceed with any way that fits with Robert's Rules of Order. I would like that explanation at some point before we take a final vote, and I just don't know where in the process that should happen.
Then
So,
let's,
yeah, I hate to be the parliamentarian here. So,
Not-
We need you to be the
yeah, so
parliamentarian.
we'll disregard the motion in the second because it wasn't necessary. It's positioned for an action. But before we call for the vote, it's appropriate if anyone else has any questions or discussion. So at this point, Stu is requesting additional information, so this would be the appropriate time during our discussion portion. Following that, if board members do not have any additional questions or want to discuss, then we can move this to a vote.
Okay.
We can vote on it. We don't have to move it to a vote. It's positioned to be voted on.
All right.
okay, thank you, Gordon.
Thank you, Madam President, Dr. Schaefer, members of the board. I'm Gordon Jones, Chief Financial Officer for the district. In providing a brief recap of what brings us to this point and what the contents of this proposed TIF or revenue sharing agreement is. In March of this year, 2023, the same agreement that is in front of the board tonight for consideration of approval followed the same pattern at that point. So this is a reapproval that's necessary because there was what is considered a substantial modification to the URA plan that was previously approved by the City of Loveland, who is the responsible party for approving any URA within the city boundaries. This agreement that is before the board tonight, per statute, any taxing entity, which means any governmental entity that is assessing a mill levy tax, property tax in the proposed area, is required to negotiate a revenue sharing agreement with, in this case, LURA, the Loveland Urban Renewal Authority. Absent an approval from the governing bodies of each one of those entities, the statute calls for arbitration or mediation to take place to arrive at a revenue sharing agreement. The revenue sharing agreement that's been brought before the board previously in March, and again, the same document for tonight, is one that has been vetted through our legal counsel, meaning Thompson's legal counsel, and then in negotiations with legal counsel for LURA, who is the deputy city attorney, was the primary body that negotiations took place with. The gist of the agreement is the mill levies that the Thompson School District assesses within for property not only within the proposed URA area, but anywhere else in the district, is how those mill levies will be shared with LURA for purposes of distribution to various entities. So I will say very briefly, there are five mill levies that are assessed within the area. There are 3 mill levy overrides, one that was adopted in 99, 2006, and 2018. There are 2 current bond initiatives that are in place. One is nearing expiration. The other is related to the 2018 bond that was approved. There is an abatement mill levy that's assessed. That's essentially a mechanism to allow for property owners that dispute their property taxes or are delinquent in their filing, that the district is held whole in those. And then what is required of the district by state statute, which is the School Finance Act funding formula mill, which is assessed by the district as well. The agreement at hand says that the currently 24.36 mills of the School Finance Act that is rising by 1 mill a year by a separate piece of legislation until it reaches a maximum of 27 mills would be diverted to LURA for distribution. Those dollars would then, under current statute, be backfilled to the district as part of the School Finance Act. The other mills that I mentioned, meaning the 3 MLOs, the 2 bond redemption mills, and the abatement mills, are collected, just like anywhere else in the district. All of these mills are collected and assessed and collected within the URA area, just as they are elsewhere in the district. All of those ones that I just mentioned, the MLOs, the bond, and the abatements, go to LURA and then are returned to the district. So it's a bit of a redirection of those funds, but 100% of any voter-initiated mill levy overrides or mill levy rates would be returned to the district at 100%. The other caveat to this is there's an existing revenue sharing agreement with the US 34/Crossroads URA that is in place right now. The Centerra South URA is a small portion of that that's being proposed to be separated and created or allowed to be created into a new URA. That revenue agreement that was previously in place for the US 34 Crossroads URA said that any dollars that are returned through LURA to the district have to be spent on capital projects, meaning typically construction, and have to be spent within the URA boundary, which is the US 34 Crossroads boundary. Those stipulations have been negotiated and been removed from this proposed agreement that's in front of the board tonight, that the dollars could be used anywhere in the district at the board's discretion for how those dollars should be spent. So a little different parameters around that. That's hopefully a somewhat brief summary.
Thank you, Gordon.
Gordon, can I ask you to affirm my understanding before we vote on this? When we voted in March, it was not a vote in favor of the URA, is that correct? Because we didn't have the authority as the Thompson School District Board of Education to actually vote in favor of the URA. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. And so what we voted in favor of in March and what we're reaffirming is essentially protection of the tax dollars for the school district that will be generated by the URA. And you're looking at me a little quizzically like I don't have that quite correct. So would you correct what I said?
No, I think the gist of your comment is correct. Rather than using the word protection of those tax dollars, I may say that maybe perhaps a better description would be the revenue sharing of those tax dollars within the URA boundary only.
So my understanding that I expressed to you is correct, essentially?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion?
I guess I'd just like to add on to that is that we've been studying this for many months, and many experts we have consulted with. And I think the bottom line is exactly what Stu and Gordon were just talking about, that we have done our due diligence. We cannot vote on the legality of the URA, but what we can do is negotiate the best revenue outcome for our students. And that's what we've done. We have protected it, or whatever, the best outcome, the revenue sharing for our Thompson students. And we do have to keep in mind the city of Loveland is responsible, if that's my correct understanding, for actually approving the LURA. Is that?
Not just the city of Loveland, but by statute, the municipality has the responsibility of approving or disapproving of any proposed URA.
Okay. Thank you for all of your information over the past month since March. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Okay.
We do conduct our business in public. So just a real quick, this is more about, yes, the revenue sharing and revenue protection. Originally, I voted no because I believe that at that time we could have done, if we'd have delayed, we could have done more to negotiate with the revenue sharing. And again, I still believe that the resolution for sharing revenue with this URA in principle I disagree with. And as a board member, that is my right to stand by my principles and vote that way.
Any further discussion? Okay. I will take a motion, since it's already in a discussion action situation. I will take a motion for approval of the reapproval of Centerra South Urban Renewal Authority intergovernmental agreement. Is there a first? I think there was one, but it was Dawn.
And Pam seconded.
And Pam seconded. And Laura Lee, please call the roll.
So I just want to make sure that someone, because initially the first and the second was for moving it to a
Right,
vote. So I just want to
okay.
be very.
And then I heard you say.
Yep, so I would remove a first and a second on what you just said.
So we have a first and a second on
Someone will need to make a
Oh,
first.
another one on
Someone-
top of the one that was done.
So I
Okay.
move, and then the second one would say.
I move we reapprove the Centerra South Urban Renewal Authority intergovernmental agreement.
Second.
Thank you. Laura Lee,
Okay, hang
please
on.
call the roll.
Who, Pam moved and Alexander second. Okay, thank you.
I am done.
Are you ready for? Okay. Stu Boyd.
Based on Gordon's clarification, I vote aye.
Okay. Amy Doran.
Aye.
Don Kirk.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Alexander Lessem.
Aye.
Nancy Rumpfelt.
No.
The motion carries 6-1. The next item under discussion action will be 6.2, which is now, will be approval of contract with Colorado Energy Office and Schneider Electric. And Nancy, you brought this forward, so could you talk with us a little bit about your questions?
Sure. So first, to Todd and your team, you guys did a great presentation, lots of good information. And I've been doing a lot of reflection on this. And my issue is I feel that given how big this potential contract is, that I believe it would be more appropriate if we had whoever the new boards ends up being, vote on it, because it does carry with it a long-term financial obligation for that reason. If this board is not willing to postpone it, then I would ask that the $85,000 we have to pay to Schneider, because if the new board chooses not to, I don't know what they'll do, but if they choose not to move forward, I would just want to make sure that that $85,000 is already accounted for and set aside in the reserves. So it's for that reason only. It's a really big contract with a large amount possible. So with that, I would like to make a motion to postpone the approval of this IGA agreement on this contract energy performance until after the election and the new board is sworn in.
And is there a second? Hearing no second, the motion fails, and we will move this into an approval of the contract with Colorado Energy Office. Did I do that correctly?
As I stated then, if we're not going to postpone it, then I would like to then move that we have this $85,000 earmarked and set aside in the reserves in case the new board does not decide to roll it into the big financial lease.
Is there a second to that part of it, or the amendment to it? Stu, you're looking puzzled.
I'd like clarification from Todd, so I guess I'll second it so that it
Yeah,
can move
that's
into
good.
discussion, and that way I can ask for clarification. Todd, as you're coming up, the clarification that I would like is the motion that was made regarding the $85,000. Does that put any part of this process in jeopardy or create a problem in another way?
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Education, Dr. Schaefer, Todd Piccone, Chief Operations Officer. Once the contract is approved, the funds are already budgeted and accounted for, so we wouldn't move forward with encumbering those dollars. So if I understand the question right, as once contract approval, the budget already holds those funds, and then we would encumber those dollars. So after, assuming the board passes the contract, we go from a budgeted amount of $85,000 to an actual amount, because we'll encumber those funds here as soon as the contract's executed.
So Gordon, may I ask a question? Does that mean then that in December, when the budget is presented for final adjustments, that this $85,000 would then be added to the current budget amount and increased?
That would certainly be an appropriate item to consider as an amendment to the budget. So December, January is the typical timeline for amendment of the budget, and then there's another opportunity in June typically of any supplemental changes to the budget. So there are opportunities to do that. I would also say if those dollars are approved by the board as a supplemental budget adjustment and are not expended by the end of the year, it's fully appropriate to have those as restricted reserves, not unrestricted reserves in the final reserve balance at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That helps clarify that we are going to increase the budget, though, most likely, if we approve it.
Yes, that would be my recommendation at this point. And just to be clear for the board's clarification, the larger project, if the result or the product of this audit, which is the $80,000 or $85,000 commitment, is the potential capital improvements that would be needed then to implement the plans of the audit. That's a separate transaction completely. It would be a request for proposal that would go out. It would certainly be, it would require the board's consent because that would be incurring debt to fund the proposed, whatever proposed modifications that are the result of this audit. That would absolutely be a second vote of the board to do that.
Okay, then I think I'm still going to vote no.
So, Madam President, we have a motion and a second on Nancy's amendment. So, Nancy, would you mind maybe restating that? And then the board will have to vote on that first before we do anything else.
At this point, because of the explanation that Mr. Gordon Jones provided, I would withdraw that motion.
No problem.
The total motion, or just
For the putting it in the reserves.
Okay.
The first one didn't get a second.
So you're withdrawing the motion you made?
Yes, so we can move forward and vote on the
Okay,
agreement.
so,
And I'll withdraw my second as well.
thank you. All right. I will take a motion for approval of the contract with Colorado Energy Office and Schneider Electric. Is there a first?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. So Don and Pam have made the motion to approve the contract with Colorado Energy Office and Schneider Electric. So Laura Lee, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Amy Doran.
Aye.
Don Kirk.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Pam Howard.
Aye.
Alexandra Lessem.
Aye.
Nancy Rumpfeld.
No.
All right, the motion carries 6-1. All right, phew. We will move on to discussion items, and these will all be 7 items now, 7.1, 7.2, so if you want to change your agenda, it doesn't matter to me if you do or not, but we have renumbered. So 7.1 is Unified Sports Update with Kevin and Todd? Yeah? Yeah, okay. We'll take Kevin.
Madam President, Dr. Schaefer, members of the board, thank you for having me here tonight. Kevin Clark, Director of Athletics and Activities, and very excited for what we're going to talk about this evening. And I did bring some guests with me. So at this time, I would ask some of our unified coaches, sponsors, athletes, partners to please come forward. And I'm going to get through the boring part of the presentation because the best part is right behind me. The connection to Strive 2025 is going to be talking about the eliminating disparities in our educational opportunities for our student groups and making sure our staff are culturally responsive in our changing demographics. So the history of unified sports. So if I can almost paint a story for you, in 2015, Loveland High School, we've got a champion right behind me, and that's Heidi Abrahamson. And Heidi, unpaid, started a unified basketball team. And the fire that struck within the district has been phenomenal. In 2019, all 4 high schools have had unified basketball teams, and we've had them ever since. 2018, Loveland High School started our first flag football team, and this year, all 4 high schools have unified flag football. In 2022, we've got another champion behind me in Jill Fitzpatrick and Melissa Harshman. They decided they wanted to start track and field for our unified athletes, And in 2022, they went to the state track meet. 2023, Mountain View has hosted during the school day a district track meet, as well as inviting schools from outside the district. In 2023, last spring, we piloted middle school unified basketball, because the plan is obviously if we can get it going in the middle level, by the time they get to high school, families are already plugged in. Last year, we did have 4 TSD schools participate. The hope is that we will have all 7 participate this spring. So currently, through the pilot, typically we start with a pilot program. These sponsors and coaches go unpaid. Through the MOU process, we currently have 3 paid positions at each of our 4 high schools, and we now have 1 middle school paid stipend. Thompson Valley High School, as well as learning last week that Mountain View are both interested in piloting unified cheer this year. And Mountain View has started a student club, Club Unified. Our goal is to continue to strengthen the partnership with the City of Loveland, Special Olympics, because as our students do age out, making the connections with the City of Loveland, that they do have opportunities to participate once they've aged out. So again, that's kind of the history in Thompson School District. Connecting this to our educational equity policy, I think you can see that these students just want and need a platform for the same opportunities as all of our students. And so with that said, we do have a big group here. So I think one of our athletes, Reese Rogich, looks like he's prepared something. So Reese, can I ask you to talk about what you wrote about?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Reese Rogich. I'm a senior at Loveland High School. Unified sports are important to me. I have played unified sports since my freshman year. I played basketball, football, track, and did golf program for 2 summers. I get more involved with my school in unified sports. I made a lot of friends that made me good about myself. I like that I get to practice with people I know from school. Having fun and competing against other teams is my favorite part about the games. My coaches are helpful and encourage me. Playing unified sports makes me feel excited and proud of myself. Because of Special Olympics and programs, I have gone to Youth Summit and been involved in leadership committee and went to summer camp 2 times where I faced my fears and went ziplining. Last week I got to be a VIP at the golf tournament, and also I have earned 7 gold medals playing basketball and golf at state. Unified sports gives me a chance to do something I love to do. It makes me happy.
And we do have Ben Diaz here, who is a Thompson School District celebrity, as his picture is over there on the wall, as he was one of our game ball deliverers in the Denver Nuggets Unified Night. And so, Ben, anything you'd like to say, or would you be open to taking some questions? Yeah.
I played flag football, basketball, and track with MV Unified, and now I am coaching those 3 sports.
And again, we do have a partner here. So basically, sometimes it's ways for our students to get community service hours. Sometimes they're student athletes, student council students. Sometimes they're not even connected to any of those programs, but our coaches and sponsors seek them out. And we do have a partner, Riley Ramsey here from Loveland High School.
Hi, my name is Riley Ramsey, and I've been in the unified sports since my freshman year, and I've just grown to love it. I get to see like all the students and athletes like grow up and like in their sports and become so good. And it's just like so inspiring to see them like get really good. And it's just really fun to play. And I'm like, I don't know, but that's it. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, just.
And then we do have two of our sponsors who again have been huge in the addition, and Heidi Abrahamson from Loveland High School, who started our original, and Jill Fitzpatrick, who has continued to add. Any questions you guys might have for our two coaches here?
We just thank you so much for bringing this forward and supporting the kids. So thank you so much. Anybody else?
I do have a question.
Okay.
Kevin, how many students district-wide are involved in unified sports? Do you have a total number?
You know, I could ballpark, probably from the
And
four high
ballpark is
schools,
fine.
ballpark, we're probably between 100 and 150.
That's
Obviously,
great.
with the middle school program, and that was the hard part of introducing it at the middle school is, hasn't been done before. They've been connected through city or through Special Olympics. They've been asking for the opportunities, but now it's just letting them know we're here, we're stable, we're gonna be an opportunity for you. And again, the goal is to have more opportunities, you know, whether it's cheerleading, soccer. I mean, there's so many more avenues we could go down.
Do all four schools have students participating like Randy? Students who are assisting with the program?
Yeah, and again, this is where I'll lean on Heidi and Jill, but I believe most basketball games, typically we have 3 athletes and 2 partners in? Yeah, so 3 unified athletes, and then they're paired with 2 partners.
Okay.
Sometimes help with the flow of the game. Sometimes our athletes, it's our partners who kind of slow down the game, but yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Dawn?
I'm so grateful to see our leaders here from LYG. It's so good to see you. I'm wondering what it would take to pay for the pilot. I realized I didn't ask that ahead of time, and so shame on me. But if that's something that we could get information on after the meeting, I really would love to know what it would take for us to make sure that we're supporting the staff that is driving this and trying to really build this into middle school. I would just really love it if we could figure that out. So I'd love to know. Thank you.
You bet, and I'll just look over here at our Chief Financial Officer, and yeah, I think he heard that. Yeah, I think he heard that. So.
And actually, that was one of the questions that I had was how, because I looked through the budget and I couldn't find a specific line item that really showed how much we spend on this program, because I wanted to know, is this enough, and how are you going to add to it like you presented in here? And if it doesn't have its own line item, then maybe we should, because I think that would go a long ways towards doing the whole equity and inclusion, because I can see, and I know some friends who have kids that do the unified, and it really goes a long way in helping them feel like they're just like everyone else and belong at the school. So I don't know I didn't know if I was looking in the wrong place in the budget.
Yeah, very briefly, it would be under, if you look on the non-FTE portion of the budget, it would be under the extra duty contracts.
Oh, it's an extra duty.
Those stipends are budgeted.
Is just funding extra duty, is that enough to have this program fully work and be funded?
So we do not charge our students a participation fee like we do for our typical sports, and through, the answer is probably no. I mean, that's probably the best answer. They have to pay for transportation to and from certain events, and that's usually raised, whether it's Pass a Bucket or they're doing fundraisers to help do that. In a lot of cases, the athletic office will step in. There's times where I know Todd Piccone has offered to pay for the transportation to those events, and then Special Olympics, the first 3 years of a program, they will actually pay for new uniforms and pay for the transportation to and from regional and state events, but not necessarily the local events. The issues we start having though, like Loveland High started in 2015, so they got new uniforms. Well, as you can imagine, over time, so now it's coming up with ways to do that. And again, that's where oftentimes we do count on community partners to help. And I think at the beginning of the meeting, we saw a perfect example of somebody who actively donates to our Unified. But again, I can tell you with probably 2 coaches here, every year it's probably I wouldn't say a frustration, but it's one of the things they have to think about as they go into their season of what they can and can't do.
If possible, I would ask and request that maybe as part of the budget process, we add this as one of our spending priorities, and then we can just go from there. But thank you. Great job, everybody.
First of all, thanks so much. I know our business, ran a little longer, so thank you very much for staying. Thank you to the coaches and students. Thank you. Wanted to ask, what's harder, coaching or playing?
I don't play anymore, I just coach.
Okay.
And I go to CC.
Okay.
Coach.
Nice. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, could we do a picture with them? That'd be great.
Okay, if everyone can squeeze in for me. Okay. Yep, a little bit more. Can you squeeze in this way for me? Yep, there you go. Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Thanks.
Thank you again for coming, you guys. We appreciate it. 7.2 is, nope. Yeah, that's right. Transportation update. And Todd, this is yours. I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure it is too, and I'm pretty sure it's not as exciting as our last presentation. So, thank you again, Madam President, Board of Education, Dr. Schaefer, Todd Piccone, Chief Operations Officer. Tonight I'll give a transportation update. Thank you. I'll just review with the board and community our current situation, next steps, and really what we're doing within the transportation department. So in connection with Strive 2025, this is really to connect with all stakeholders that rely and use our transportation department, most for daily transportation to school. So what we're currently looking at, which isn't new state or even nationally, is there's a driver shortage and para shortage, at the state level, national level. And unfortunately, within the last few weeks, it's really hit TSD. Up until this point, I have to compliment the transportation department. They've done an exceptional job of maintaining service. To the point that the entire office staff really is not doing what they should be doing. They're out driving buses. And that works for a certain amount of time. But recently, we've just lost some more staff, and our application pool really is not even there. So in saying that, just an overview of what we provide. So we transport about 4,000 students a day. We have 60+ routes. This doesn't include trips or field trips, athletic events. But what we're looking at now is we start each day with 6 to 10 open routes. So that means we don't have drivers to fill the routes. So what we have been doing, as I mentioned, is using like Matt Payne, Transportation Director. He's out in a bus driving morning and night. All the office staff, besides the secretary, is really holding down the fort within the transportation building. What we've come to and what we need to do, and what that does impact is we have minimal staff in the office, which really isn't the safest way to run an operation. If there's an event, we don't have the proper managing and supervising leadership to manage through an event. And also, there's other work that needs to happen that you can't do if you're out driving a bus. So, some of their days right now are driving from 5 to 10. They're working in the 10 to 2-ish, and then they're out driving from about 2-ish to 6-ish. And then also night work after that, which is okay. And again, to compliment the staff, they're okay with doing that, but there's a point where you can only sustain some of this for so long. So what that looks like for our next steps, and what we implemented actually this week, kind of day one, this day one as in Monday was our first day we did delayed routes. So we did have, again, open routes that we didn't have drivers for. So we communicated, and I would say over-communicated with the community of those schools, the specific schools that ride the bus, or specific students that ride the bus, and then the school staff on what does this look like if we do delay a route within your school. So we came up with a plan, and we did activate this Monday with the route. There's some learning curves behind, so we couldn't go. We had to do one because we just didn't have a driver to drive the route. So it was a delayed route of about an hour and a half. So basically what happens is that within the school, say there's 5 drivers, 4 do their routes, 1 goes back and does another loop to pick up that route that was open. So that's what we implemented Monday, and since then we have done it almost every day on and off between different schools. The goal of this is not to cut services, provide services for those students that still need it, so that's why we're not canceling anything. We are delaying, and I'll say out of the impacted schools, there was about 60-ish students that were on these different routes. About 90% found another way to and from school. And about that 10%-ish, did have to wait either for the bus in the morning or for the ride home. So that's what happened the first of this week. I'll talk more about what we're doing and how we're doing, what we're doing to help those families. But that was really phase one. So we enacted that this week. The next thing that we can look at in a future option is more consolidation of routes. Unfortunately, that means that the bus stops aren't going to be as close. There's going to be more consolidation, so there's less routes if there's less drivers. We're hoping the first phase of this will get us through and we get more employees in, but that is then the second kind of option. And then there's also other options. I mean, we are talking with every district, or I say quite a few districts around the state, about what are you doing, how are you being creative, what are the things you're doing. And we're all in the same boat together. So this isn't something new that, we just stumbled on. This is something other districts are doing, and other districts are even cutting deeper than we are now. So that's where we're at kind of current, in the near future. And then obviously if it continues, there'll be other options down the road. So what we are doing is consistent recruiting. Just today, we sent a notice out, I think actually just in the last hour, about a referral bonus. So for both transportation and actually custodial. Custodial will down about 16, 17 employees as well. To say if you refer someone, you get a bonus if they stay 4 months, and then you get the full bonus if they stay a year. The other thing we're doing is with the Boys and Girls Club and YMCA, to make sure we're not impacting as families as much as we can, is providing extra care. So we work specifically with each entity to say, okay, this week this school could be impacted. Please staff up to properly support the students that may need it. And last week that did happen and it worked, so it's good. And a shout out to our partners because they are taking this on as well. I mean, they're short too, so they're looking at us like, okay, we're short staffed. How do we manage this? But what's exciting is together the partnerships we've created. It's working, and we did create that support for the students that did, we're about an hour and a half late home from school. We're also working with the City of Loveland. They are also looking at how we can maybe combine shuttles. There's different routes we do throughout the day that if we relieve a pinch point here, it'll help over here. So that's something we're working with their public transportation department to figure out where are the pinch points that they can help us with. They already provide service free to our students, but there's what additional can they do? So that's what we're looking into. And then, as we talk to other districts and rethinking about maybe different ways out of the box of how we can support general education routes. So by state mandate, we have to, our ESS students, we do support, and that those students, those services will not be cut. But how can we look at the general education, transportation a little different? So not that I have that answer, but it is something that not just us, but the regionally, we're trying to figure out what that could look like to maybe think something different than what we've done in the last several years. And then utilizing contract services. So especially for the student that just has need to go to this specific program, there are services out there that we are utilizing for that. So we're hiring a specific driver just for the student to take from A to B, which does work pretty well. There's a cost associated with that, which we are monitoring as we use this, but because of some different savings, we'll be able to take that within the transportation budget so far. The other piece that we're doing is unfortunately cutting a lot of field trips and or sports activities because that takes drivers, and the priority first is to get the students to school. But we are looking at other ways too. So we're chartering buses. That's probably one of the bigger, I would say, quickest changes we made is instead of taking our school bus, whether it be band, football, whatever it is, we're now hiring charter buses to take those students. And that has been successful, so we're not modifying those services for those athletes. So in saying that, kind of where we're currently at, what we're facing, what we're doing, just want to provide the board an update, really the community of where we're at and what it looks like. Again, I can't compliment the staff of transportation enough. That's why Matt's not here tonight, is he's burning both ends. So I said, don't worry, I can help. We can do this together. So, yeah, so if there's any questions on where we're at, what we're doing, yeah, I'll open up to the board for anything else.
I just have a question. I know this doesn't really solve the problem, but when you were talking, I was thinking about would there be any way of setting up like a carpooling networking way or something like that to help families get kids to school?
Yeah, so as we're communicating with each building, that's what we're asking, because it's, the buildings know their families, and that did start to happen, there was, so it's, when we talk to the impacted buildings, we say, here's some suggestions, here's some things to think about, and that's how I think we were most successful, or very successful in the last few days, is people did just pitch in and find other ways to get their students there, and carpooling was one piece of it,
I have an idea, and that is that everyone in this room could become a CDL driver real fast, real fast. Just saying. That'd be a whole lot of people.
Yeah, I can start the pitch of what it takes, but in all seriousness, yes. I mean, it's an opportunity for a lot of our community, I think, that may not realize just what they can do to help the kids, but then also it is financially there's an incentive to. There's a CDL course at first, which is about an 80 hours course that the district pays you to go through, and then a little more training after that, and then you are off and running, within the program. But yeah, if there's, anyone watching that would take on that, we'd be more than happy to take you. We also are running ads on movie theaters and the papers. So yeah, we're trying to touch every little corner we can.
Let's see if there's any other Poudre School Board members who also want to become our employees. There's 6 more people.
Yeah, so we pay for the course and the time that they're in it. Yes. Yep. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
Not really a question, just a comment. I think of the term public servant and thinking about what the transportation department is doing under your guidance. That's truly public service. And so I'm very grateful to everyone who's contributing to making it possible for kids to be able to get to school.
Thank you, yes.
I just, this weekend I was talking with a mom in Berthoud, and I know that this is not the best time, but I think sometimes with the shortage of drivers, you know, like they finally got a sidewalk, and so now they don't have the bus anymore, but there's still a lot of construction traffic. But then you have issues like this where you can't find the bus drivers to even like make that possible. So I think this just to me showcases again that we need to look at the way our classified salary schedules are and just think outside the box and just be innovative. We've been innovative with so many other things in this district. I think that this is another area where we could just find a way to do that, because we're not just competing with the districts for bus drivers, we're competing with Walmart, with Target, with, you know, manufacturers, and I think that's what makes it really tough, because they still have to pay their bills. And so I'm sure Dr. Siebers, he's got some hat, he's ready, he's going to pull out of his hat, and he's going to find a trick to solve this, is what I'm...
Yeah, we all have our hats out. We're all looking for the tricks and the rabbits to come out.
But you guys, I know you guys are working really hard, and so...
We are, and I mean, you haven't gone into the detail of what the team's doing to strategize and figure out how we can support, but there is countless hours and just that being put into it, and we'll keep working at it, and we'll keep updating and supporting the community and the kids the best we can.
Thank you, Todd. Yeah, we appreciate it. I know it's been a big job. All right, 7.3, which is student achievement update. Dr. Schneider and company.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Schaefer. Melissa Schneider, Chief Academic Officer. Tonight I'm joined by members of my team who will present to you an update on our academic and growth student achievement scores, as well as our performance of our district, as well as some of our schools. So we aim to give you a high-level overview of growth and achievement and our plans for next steps. So I am joined by Carrie Bartman, our Director of Assessment and Evaluation, Theo Robeson, our Executive Director of Secondary Education, Sarah Rasmussen, Executive Director of Elementary Schools, and Patty Verdon, our Executive Director of Student Support Services. And I'm going to go ahead and let Carrie get started right now.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Schaefer. Tonight, the entire presentation will be focused around Focus Area 1, which is student achievement. And we're going to review all of the data that happened over the last school year, including our iReady scores, as well as all of our CMAS data and PSAT and SAT scores. So to start us off tonight with some student celebrations, last year, all students in grades 1st through 8th took iReady 3 times a year. And so when we measured our growth through this process, you can see in our 4-quadrant chart in front of you that in our reading data, all students in grades 1st through 7th grade had high achievement and high growth, which was excellent. Our 8th grade students had low performance, which is lower achieving. However, they still maintain that high growth data, which was excellent to see in our reading data for the year. On the next slide, you'll see our student math growth for grades 1st through 8th. Our math data had all grade levels, 1st through 8th grade, low achieving, however, high growth. And as we know, growth precedes achievement, and so we were very excited to see that all of those grade levels were achieving the growth needed, and now we're hoping for that achieving the growth part, and now hopefully the achievement piece will follow. Another celebration we wanted to highlight was our Ferguson High School campus, which is our alternative education campus. They are rated each year on the alternative education campus rating, and it's a different performance rating, and they again hit green, which is awesome. Last year they were 60.7%, and this year they grew to 64.25%. So for all of our students and Dr. Germain and his entire staff, we are so excited for the progress that they have made. Continued celebrations. So on our district performance framework, our graduation rate from 2022 is included in that. And so we wanted to highlight again for you that 87.6% of our students from 2022 graduated in 4 years, and that met all of the criteria on our district performance framework. We do not yet have this year, 2023's graduation data, but as soon as we do, that comes out later this fall, we will be sharing that with you as well. Other celebrations that you will see is that our high school multilingual learners on our district performance framework hit the exceeds in both categories this year. Multilingual learners is the new terminology that will now follow what our ELL students used to be, and so you will see multilingual learners as our new the new way that the state of Colorado designates that student population. Our students with disabilities, as well as our economically disadvantaged students, outperformed the state on both CMAS, ELA, and math this year, which was exceptional. Another highlight we want to share with you tonight is our elementary performance growth. Our elementary schools went from improvement last year at 53.5% to accredited this year at 62%, with almost 10% growth. Our high school English language arts results for our PSAT and SAT scores, all 3 grade levels outperformed the state this year in ELA. Linked in this website, or linked is the CDE website. If you would like additional data, you are welcome to go on CDE's website, and the entire dashboard is public for you to see. And so if there's anything tonight that you would like additional information on that I haven't included, there's many different options for you, and so this website is linked in the slide deck for you. Our district performance framework rating, which it comes out every year for every district in the state of Colorado, this year we were accredited with an improvement plan with a score of 55.1%. To give you a frame of reference, to be accredited on performance, it is 56% for the state. So we fell below by 0.9 percentage points, which brings us into the yellow category. Last year, however, we were accredited at 56.8%. So we didn't see we saw a very low decline. We've kind of hovered around that 56% for the last few years. Last year we were slightly above. This year we are slightly below. What that means for us as a district is that we've investigated all options. The state of Colorado gives us the opportunity to request a reconsideration from the state. We did request and look through all of those options. However, our district this year doesn't qualify for one of those, so we will stay at that 55.1% improvement. However, one of our elementary schools does qualify for that request to reconsider, and that is BF Kitchen Elementary, and so they will be moving forward with the process. What we also have to do is write an updated district unified improvement plan, and that is due to the state October 16th. We do have some schools that also are on improvement this year. So we have 5 schools that fell into the category of improvement, just like our district. Mountain View High School, Lorene Edmondson Elementary, Thompson Valley High School, Lincoln Elementary, and Cottonwood Plains Elementary are all on the improvement side, scoring in between 42 and 53%. We also had 4 schools fall into priority improvement. Lucille Irwin Middle School, Walt Clark Middle School, Bill Reed Middle School, and Conrad Ball Middle School fell in the category of 34 to 42%. We have 1 elementary school that fell in turnaround, which is 0 percentage points to 34%, and that is BF Kitchen Elementary. So as I said, they qualified for the request to reconsider. In January, if they are approved for that, they will move from the turnaround status into that priority improvement. So once you are accepted into the request to reconsider, you can move up 1 level. So they would move from turnaround to priority improvement if the state agrees on that. And so those are all of the schools that fell below the performance at this point in time. And they also will be writing a new school unified improvement plan that is due to the state on October 16th. To move into CMAS scores overall, English language arts and math. The first diagram that you see in front of you are our elementary ELA as well as our middle school English Language Arts scores. And so walking you from left to right on the bar graph, 2018 and 19 in the orange, that is our pre-COVID last base of data that we have before COVID hit. 2019, 2020, as you can see, there isn't anything there because we were home during that time, so that spot is empty. The yellow bar graph, 2020, 2021. It is important to note here that our 3rd, 5th, and 7th graders took ELA that year. Grades 4, 6, and 8 could opt in. However, the data is not fully accurate for all of our students on the yellow. And so just keep that in mind as we move forward, as the yellow bar graph will be consistent throughout the presentation. Then we have the last 2 years, 2021 and 2022. And so these are all students testing, everyone is back in building, and we have our 95% participation rate. And so as you can see on the elementary side, in grades 3, 4, and 5 on the left, we have increased our ELA scores to 45.1%, and we outperform the state, which is the gray bar graph, by a couple of percentage points. When you look on the right, we saw a decrease in middle school ELA scores this year, and we underperformed the state 39.3% to 43.6%. Similarly in math, the piece that is different is in yellow for 2020, 2021 in math. Our grades 4, 6, and 8 took the math assessment in CMAS. And so our grades 3, 5, and 7 could opt into the math side, but for that school year, grades 4, 6, and 8 were the ones that took the math assessment. And so looking on the right-hand side, or I'm sorry, on the left initially, our math scores grew, which is consistent in what I had shown you earlier in the quadrant chart. We are seeing the growth in math. The achievement side, we're hoping follows that as we are continuing to utilize all of our iReady data. And so we went from 33.9% to 35.3%. So we're still a little bit below the state average. However, we're liking and seeing that increased growth. On the right-hand side, we're with middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We saw a dip again in our math scores, and we were slightly below the state by a couple of percentage points. This is our disaggregated populations for 3rd through 8th grade for CMAS this year. Some things to note, so our Hispanic and Latino students dropped a little bit this year in CMAS ELA, and we're just underneath where the state performed, as well as our multilingual students. However, something to note, as we talked about in celebrations, our students with disabilities outperform the state by many percentage points and just did an exceptional job this year. We're very, very happy with our students with disabilities. Economically disadvantaged students also outperform the state by 0.7%, and our gifted and talented students as well outperform the state by a couple of percentage points. Similar diagram in math. And so here we are, you're seeing the Hispanic Latino students. Again, you're seeing from the green to the blue, we're seeing that growth and that uptick that we're wanting to see. For both Hispanic Latino students and multilingual students. Our students with disabilities, again, in math outperform the state by multiple percentage points. Our economically disadvantaged students also saw significant growth from last year to this year and also outperformed the state by 0.2%. Our gifted and talented students stayed pretty steady with where they were from the year before, and they are just underneath where the state performed. Now moving into high school, our PSAT 9, 10, and SAT scores. Our ELA, PSAT 9 and PSAT 9th grade scores, PSAT 10th grade scores, and 11th grade SAT, again, as part of our celebration, wanting to really show we outperform the state in each grade level significantly. So we are very, very happy with where our English language arts scores landed this year in all high school categories. Moving to math. Math, we know, is an opportunity area for us at high school level. We are very pleased that we're seeing a growth in our PSAT 9 scores. We're slightly below the state. However, seeing that significant growth, we are pleased with. 10th grade and 11th grade, we have opportunity for growth still. We're underperforming the state by a couple of percentage points. Our disaggregated populations for high school level. Here you can see that where we saw that exceeds point for our district performance framework, our Hispanic Latino students outperform the state in reading and writing by almost 9 percentage points, which is exceptional. Our multilingual students also outperformed the state this year by almost 3 percentage points. Our students with disabilities saw a little bit of a dip this year in the ELA side at high school level. However, in elementary and middle, they outperformed the state with great gains. Our economically disadvantaged students as well saw growth and outperformed the state by multiple percentage points. And our gifted and talented students were at 0.3% ahead of where the state was this year. On the math side for PSAT and SAT, our Hispanic and Latino students again outperformed the state. We saw significant growth there. Same with our multilingual students, multiple percentage points above where the state landed. Our students with disabilities, as you can see, we're still continuing to see that uptick in the growth area that I've talked about many times. We're a little bit below the state by 1.5%. However, we're seeing that growth that we're wanting for the achievement scores to be there. Our economically disadvantaged students outperformed the state by 1 percentage point, and our gifted and talented students fell below the state, which is an area of opportunity for us, by about 5 percentage points. So you've seen this instructional vision triangle before, and so I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. Sarah is going to start off, and we're going to talk about next steps and what's taking place in the building now that we have all of these results back.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Schaefer, members of the board. I'm Sarah Rasmussen, Executive Director of Elementary Schools. And so, yes, we are going to talk about the instructional vision and what we are doing as a district to really address the needs that we're seeing as well as the successes that we're seeing in our data. So first, because I have the privilege of addressing this slide first, I will explain a little bit about what you've heard before around how we are addressing our professional practices in Thompson School District. So this is a district-wide effort with our EC12 leaders. And during our monthly EC12 meetings, we will be discussing a very specific quality standard that comes from our teacher professional practices rubric. And we will be talking about what does this look like and sound like in our TSD classrooms. That will be followed by collaboration with our Learning Services Director team. So our director team will have an opportunity to support building leaders in their buildings, in the classrooms, and really calibrate our system as far as what do these effective practices look like. We will the ultimate goal is to make sure that we have a really solid understanding of what practices are going to look like in classrooms in order to impact student growth and ultimately student achievement. Our focus is on creating the best learning experience for each student. So right now, with early childhood and elementary, I just want to talk a little bit about what we're doing specifically. This is the third year that we have been engaging in work around professional learning communities, very strategically and very intentionally. So these are conversations that are standards driven. We are really looking at the individual needs of each student and talking about the teaching moves and the learning that needs to happen in order to move student growth and achievement forward. So the conversations are frequent and action-oriented, and I have a chance to sit in on these PLC conversations quite frequently. And the conversations around looking at student work, when you're pulling up a rubric that teachers have created, rooted in the state standards, and talking about what does this student know? Where's the gap in the student's learning, and what are we going to do next? And we do that with every single piece of work that we're looking at. The conversations are extremely powerful, so we're continuing that work this year. We also have a continued focus on literacy. As you know, we are in the midst of implementing the learned knowledge from Science of Reading, and we will continue to refine our practices in this area. We also know that there is a large gap in writing. This is district-wide and it's statewide. This is actually the perfect complement to the work that we've been doing with Science of Reading. So this year, our school instructional leaders are receiving professional development around writing. And then with those professional development experiences, they're also receiving the resources to take back to their own buildings so that they can lead that professional learning with their staff as well. These trainings are all grounded in using our Thompson School District approved curricular materials so that teachers are not having to learn anything new. They're familiar with the materials and can apply their new learning to what they're already familiar with. And then finally, as you know, we have this new math program that we've adopted. And as I've said previously, there is no perfect program. So what we're working on this year is really providing our teachers with the knowledge about how do they teach math well. We have had 2 full days of teacher training around mathematical practices. We're working with a company called All Learners Network, and their mission is being able to help teachers understand how to provide opportunities for each student to access math content in an equitable and inclusive way. So that's who we're working with. They will actually be in our district tomorrow. And we have grouped our teachers intentionally within these training sessions, so they're with job alikes. We have grade level teams together, we have special education teams together, we have even our dual language immersion schools. They're in their own learning cohort because things look different there. So today I received a email from a teacher out of the blue. It was first thing in the morning, and I read it and I was grinning ear to ear. One of the things that she stated, and I just pulled out one sentence, she said, "I feel that using Envision with the lens of All Learners Network will be so powerful." And I thought that's exactly what we're trying to do. And so to hear that feedback was amazing. And then she shared a story about how it totally changed how she was approaching story problems with her kids. And she said it was the best math lesson that she has ever taught. I thought, that is great. Like, we've done 2 days of training. This is awesome. So I also had an opportunity to walk into a classroom where we had 5th graders, and the teacher looked at me and she said, "Look, I'm trying it." 2 days after the training, she was working on a math menu. A math menu is a very intentional list of items that students can engage in that are grounded again in grade level content and standards, but it gives them an opportunity to work on something while the teacher is working with small group, with math small groups. And so just seeing the impact of this already, and we are in September, is very exciting. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what we're doing and what those practices are looking like as we walk into classrooms. And I really appreciate your time this evening. I'm going to introduce Theo Robeson, Executive Director of Secondary Schools.
Greetings, Madam President, Dr. Schaefer, members of the board. So here tonight, I want to talk to you about a new experience for a lot of our secondary administrators, and it's centered around the professional learning communities. And so one of the things that I want to share with you is an experience that we had last Thursday at one of our K-8s. And so we have one of our K-8s that have been implementing this work for over the last 3 years, and we've seen some phenomenal results in their data coming through CMAS in math. And so one of the things that we have been challenged to do in learning services through the leadership of Dr. Snyder and Dr. Schaefer is find those exemplary practices in our schools and figure out ways how to duplicate those throughout the system. And so the power in this last Thursday was the fact that our principals were able to sit down together, work with our other principal at High Plains, and try to look at standards and unpack those standards and look at the performance-based assessments to help us become more knowledgeable about how to utilize that practice to ensure that we consistently have students working at the grade level rigor. And so this was so exciting that after we were done with this training, several of the principals and several of the district people that were there were saying, we should have recorded this, we should have recorded this. We need to have all teachers throughout the system see this. So one of the things that we're doing now is collaborating with the communications department to have this redone again for us so we can add this to our library and share this with other schools as they're trying to develop their PLC practices in their building in order to see these exemplary practices. Something else that I want to celebrate too, as it relates to professional learning communities, is that through the professional learning that we've had with Solution Tree this year, I've had numerous teachers come up to me while I'm walking through these sites and just shake my hand and give me a hug and tell me how powerful the professional learning community, professional development has been so far this school year. And so it's just a champion of the fact that we have something in place that has some alignment in EC12 across the system that started at the elementary level, and now it's resonating through the secondary level, and we really are striving to master this opportunity with our teachers. And then also another celebration that we have is that through the work that we've been doing with the new 6 through 9 My Perspectives curriculum, this is how we're going to champion our PLC work throughout the school year for our secondary schools, because now we have some guaranteed viable curriculum with also the cooperative learning practices that we've invested in over the last 3 years to hopefully finally start to see those results pay off inside of our classrooms. So it's just been a phenomenal amount of work that we've able to been a part of, and it's just, I'm so proud that our districts have been able to help us get this financial support in order to have this throughout our curriculums and these instructional practices. So next up, I'd like to introduce Patty Verdum, our ESS Executive Director.
Good evening, Madam President and Dr. Schaefer and school board members. I'm Patty Verdun, and I'm the Executive Director of Student Support Services. And I think I'd like to steal a word that we heard often tonight, and that is unified, which, my goodness, it's amazing to have that in this school district, let me tell you. But we really need an all-hands-on-deck mentality and be unified in our approach so that we are ensuring that all students, including the students that I'm really urgently responsible for, are students with economic disadvantages, our students with disabilities, and our multilingual learners, all get that strong form of instruction, that have teachers with strong professional learning, and they have access and opportunity to really be involved in this rich curriculum that we're talking about. So I do have a couple of stories to highlight how that looks with all of us together. So for PLCs, our special education teachers and all of our staff really hit hard on that learning. And can you imagine having strong PLCs, not only for teachers to collaborate with special education teachers on those standards, but also PLCs where teachers are really looking at IEP goals and looking at our students being successful in progress monitoring on those goals to see that expedited growth. So we have those things in place because we had that PLC as a focus and will continue to. Another piece is really providing feedback on those standards that we've been talking about. And I have had the pleasure of doing walkthroughs in a few schools with my colleagues, in particular Theo, and we also had a principal, and we were walking through all kinds of classes. We are observing and talking to multilingual learners. We are observing and talking to students with disabilities in co-teaching classes and other classes that are providing for their unique needs. We're talking to kids. We're asking them about their learning. And then in the hall, we are talking about what are we seeing? What are those glows? What are maybe some growth points? Or lifting, that was an amazing practice that we were seeing. How can we get this shared with others? So that in closest to implementation work is really important if we want to see continuous growth. And finally, I have an example of an EC12 meeting that we're about to have, and that has to do with quality standards. So quality standard 1 is really about instruction. And one of these key points is scaffolding instruction so that learner variability is considered, so that students can access at different instruction points. And so we will all be learning about that and how to ensure that our schools are lifting for our students who may have already met the standard and need to continue to grow, and students who might need a little support without taking down the level of the standard, because we know our kids with those supports can access that curriculum. So now I will hand it over back to our leader, our fearless leader.
Thank you, everyone. What questions does the board have for us?
Well, what questions do we have? No, you can start, Nancy.
First, there is a lot of really good information and success and celebration in this. For me, my focus is really on the third grade reading, because I know it's so foundational. If you can't read, you can't do math, you can't learn history, you can't learn science, you can't do music. I mean, so when I looked at this, I see that in 2019, we had 4 schools that were under 30% proficient. 22, it got a little worse, but then for 23, we're back to 4. So I think that shows that, we're making the progress. My perspective now is, when we know that these schools, and we know the schools, that we should, when we're doing our budget and as a board and in collaboration with the superintendent, figure out how to direct more spending, more budgets towards those schools that you can see need more resources. Doesn't matter, what the student they need more resources, as well as like I need to change the multi-language learners. I was going to say the other one. That we know that they need additional resources. So instead of saying, oh, they're doing better than the state, we should be saying, we're not measuring to the state. We're measuring to every child needs to be proficient in reading. That's our standard. Yeah, it's okay to grade the states over here, but we set the standard for ourselves. And so I just think there's a lot of good stuff here, and I would just like to try to see, just really identify where we need to put more resources to help those kids come up, and to your point, maintain all the other kids. But good job, and there is a lot of good news in here.
Thank you, Nancy.
Are there questions?
A comment, not a
Okay.
question. Melissa and team, 3 things. First of all, thanks for sharing the successes. We like to hear about the successes. Theo, you and I have talked about this before, about the importance of collaboration to share best practices among schools. The fact that that's happening, the fact that that administrators are excited about it, means that when they go back into their respective schools, their staffs, their teachers will be excited about this too. And Melissa, the other day when you presented this to me in what was for a lot of my board colleagues 2+2, and I was part of a 2+1, so the district staff with just me, you stated growth precedes achievement, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, I think we need to make a sign of that, and it probably needs to be in everybody's office here and perhaps in classrooms as well, because it's so true. Growth precedes achievement, and we're showing that growth, and we're working hard to make that happen. So to your entire team and to all the teachers who are in the trenches every day who are making these things happen, that's what we're here for. Thank you.
Pam?
Yeah, my question, and I want to be sure I heard, I'm reading all this correctly, is that our iReady scores pretty much across the board? Oh, I'm sorry about that. Thanks. Our iReady scores pretty much across the board were fairly high. And it seemed to me there was a bigger difference between iReady and CMAS than maybe I was expecting, and I didn't know.
That's a great question. I'm glad that you asked that. So yes, our iReady scores were on those first couple of slides with the scatter plot, where it was either you saw that we were attaining high growth, or in the other case, high growth and achievement. So definitely moving in the right direction. They were actually slightly higher in several cases. There was a discrepancy between some of our iReady scores and our CMAS scores, and so our district performance framework rating is based on CMAS. However, you know, that's one measure, and we do put a lot of stake in iReady because we get to do that 3 times a year and really take a look at how kids are moving. So in some cases, when we talked about request to reconsider, you can actually use iReady scores as part of your package of requesting to reconsider, and that's only at elementary. So we can't use that at middle, but we did take a deep dive into our iReady middle school scores because, like I said, it is a different tool, and it does give us a lot of information, and in some cases we saw students perform better on that than they did on CMAS.
Thank you so much.
I had one, I think it's for Sarah. The question, you were talking about, that we need to focus on writing. So, and you have somebody working with them on writing in PD at this point in time. Are they taking the ReadyGen piece of writing, and that's what they're focusing on? Or is there something more they're bringing in for writing?
Yes, so we actually have our curriculum and learning design team is working with our elementary principals and our instructional coaches. And so the team has really utilized, there's a book called The Writing Revolution that has just some foundational aspects and craft around writing. And so that's the resource that is being utilized along with some of the work that the state is doing, that we actually have a staff member who is a part of that work, and really it's around the science of writing. And so that's being pulled together. However, what we don't want to have happen is that teachers feel like they need to go get their own resources for writing. So we're really relying heavily on what is accessible in ReadyGen and digging deeply into those materials.
Yeah, okay, making him think more about the
Absolutely.
writing versus just responding to what they read.
Absolutely, and the great thing as well is that we're really going to do this through various contents. So that's a part of the training as well, is that it's not just going to be during literacy time, but writing and math is critical, and other content areas also.
Okay, and then one more. The math part of it. You're talking about the grade level, and they're learning to do math groups, which is a whole new way of their thinking. And I guess I would want to also point out that if they have a menu, there's also a choice for the kids. And too much of what they do doesn't allow for them to have that choice. So that was another little comment I wanted to make. I'm anxious to kind of explore the All Learners Network as well. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so one thing that struck me looking at the data as I saw it the second time, Carrie, is that everybody hears about learning loss. Even if you don't have to pay a lot of attention to education, that's like the top of mind, right? Like you hear that everywhere. And I looked at that data and I went, it's not there in the data. There has been dips, certainly, but it's not this big pervasive beast that we've been told it is. And I know, talking to parents and talking to staff, that it is there in a different way. So please know that, like, as I say this, I understand that we have a whole bunch of other things that we're dealing with. But one of the things that just struck me as I looked at kind of this comprehensive piece, especially because we're pulling out the growth here, is that I think that this data like screams the amazing overall health of the district, even through these times when people said, no, you're doing it wrong. There's no way that we're going to make up for this. These kids are never going to recover. Clearly, we're not in that place. We do have real challenges. They're showing up in other presentations. We have things that we need to do for sure, But I felt like I really needed to shout that out because that belongs to everybody who has been working so very hard for these last few years. And so kudos. The other thing that happened is I did a Cheshire cat grin to Theo while Patty was talking. I'm so excited about, it's a big deal that we've got everyone in PLCs now, that it's not a small group, which was awesome. It's now really we're doing this together. We are looking at all sides, especially having ESS teachers in there. We are hearing this universal design piece because there's nothing that we do to help kids with disabilities that doesn't help all the other kids, all of them, which I know I've said out loud many, many times. I'm so excited because when you help the kids that were some of the ones that struggled the very most, everyone else is getting the value of that. It's some of our best teaching. And it's amazing that in just a few short weeks of us doing this, there's so much energy and enthusiasm around something that was already a really positive experience that I know staff feels like we invest in them because we spend the time doing it. We're doing it even better in just a few weeks. And so I'm psyched for everyone in that. But especially for the fact that we're looking at IEP goals all the time. What? That I believe I was told that was just not possible not long ago. So I'm very excited. Thank you.
Alexandra?
So I have a question that I don't know that I really expect a concrete answer to, but it was just curious to me that the ELA, it was not ELA, the evidence-based reading and writing on the PSAT and the SAT for the high school levels was suddenly so much higher than in middle school. Math was roughly comparable, but then that shot up and above everything else. And I'm curious if you guys have talked about that at all, or why that might be, or why is that so different from
We
the
are
other
super
scores?
proud of those results, but I am going to look back at Theo and see if you have any theories with that one.
So I think one of the things, and I go back to curriculum resource or curriculum materials. I think for a time period in our district, we've had teachers really design a whole lot of different types of curriculums that they use throughout the system with the best intentions in mind. But we find ourselves, as our populations are changing and the needs of students are becoming greater, that we need to look more intensively at what we're putting in front of our students. And this is why I really applaud the board for helping us get the My Perspectives curriculum into our middle schools, grades 6 through 8. I think that's going to help. I think one of the difference at the high school level is that, so if kids are taking AP classes or IB classes or things like that, then they're actually going to receive a specific type of curriculum that they're utilizing. And so I think that now that we have this going on through 6 through 9, coupled with strong instructional pedagogy and practice, I think we're going to start to see hopefully some more consistency in the elevation of our schools. One thing that I didn't say when I was speaking earlier that I think is going to help us a ton is that, so we're actually in PLCs for all secondary principals, APs, deans, and our instructional leadership team teachers, and then our curriculum coordinator teachers. We're going to be all involved in the same PLC process together. And this is around the My Perspectives resource and really ensuring that we know all those different materials, what exists within that in order to help us better be prepared inside of our classrooms. So that's another thing that I'd like to celebrate as well.
Amy? Okay, cool. All right.
I have one quick more question.
Okay.
Is that possible? I was just wondering, I'm talking about the PSATs and the SATs. Are we doing the academies to protect the extra pieces? I forgot my.
Yeah,
All right.
sorry.
Are we doing the PSAT, SAT academies to help the students prepare?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
And actually, we are highlighting that much more this year because all of it's going online. And so last year was the last year of paper pencil. And so we will be using a Blue Book app for all students to take the PSAT 9, 10, and SAT online, as well as all AP tests will also be online. So any students with needing accommodations for paper pencil, obviously they will have those, and we will put those in for any students with disabilities that would require that. However, just like CMAS and iReady and everything else, it's pretty much the digital age at this point, and so we're running academies just to get them prepared for taking it online. It also is shortened this year. So with moving it online from 4 sections to 2 sections, it's moving from 3.5 hours to 2 hours and 15-ish minutes at most. And so they've completely recalibrated what it looks like as colleges, especially through the COVID era, realize that that score isn't necessarily an indicator of the only success for kids going to college. And so we have a lot going on with SAT and PSAT academies just because of that this year.
Thank you. Thank you, team, for all of the information. Oh, sorry, Nancy, I
No,
didn't
that's
look
okay.
down that.
Sorry, Pam, what's your name? Pam, when she was talking about the PSAT SAT scores, reminded me, one other thing that I noticed on that area, along with Alexandra, is that, we talked about it, is that you can really correlate the PSAT math scores all the way back to the 3rd grade, because I went down and I dug into it, and I could see by high school and looked at the feeder scores for 3rd grade reading, and every one of those high schools' 9th grade math scores made sense because the 3rd grade reading showed it. And you could see that even like with Berthoud High. I think Berthoud High was 60%. And so all of the elementaries showed high reading for 3rd grade. But again, that just goes back to why the 3rd grade reading is so important, but it does correlate.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Siebers, I think you're up next. Calendar. Nice jacket.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Madam President, School Board, Dr. Schaefer, Bill Siebers, Chief Human Resources Officer of this amazing destination district. I'm here from the last board meeting. We had 2 calendar committee meetings already. So the presentation tonight will focus on Strive 2025, but discussing an update on calendar committee. But really, the lens for building a calendar is really thinking about student success. So that's at the core of our conversations. So we'll talk about the calendar committee, and then I'll just review board policy. So board policies, their state law requires each school year to include the following minimum number of hours of planned teacher and student instruction: 1,080 hours of secondary schools, high schools 9 to 12, middle schools 6 through 8, 990 hours of elementary school students other than kindergarten, grades 1 through 5, 900 hours for full day and 450 for half day, and then 360 hours for Colorado preschool program. We have Lam Curl on the committee for a reason. He's our director that is awesome for early childhood. So meeting 1, it's just getting people back together. We have 16 people now. We added a member from the last presentation. So the first meeting, we have new members coming on board and we have returning members. So it's really just going over the meeting norms, the expectations, operating principles, 80% consensus to move forward. Because at times you can get stuck with a conversation. Let's say you talk about Thanksgiving break, and it could take hours and hours to have a discussion. So there are people that might say it should be a full week. Someone else might say 3 days. So we kind of use a model of consensus to move forward and then vote on it. So it's something we put in place the last few years, which is extremely helpful. And then we've reviewed board policy. So the couple pages of board policy, I just took a snippet and talked about that. But it gives an idea of calendar committee. Like there's regulations that really drives what the calendar committee is all about. And then we took some time noticing the calendars from 22, 23, 23, 24. We talked about consistency. We talked about spring break, like different things. There's 170 instructional days, 185 teacher days in there. So we just kind of mapped out all the things that we saw in different noticings, which is good because if you have new members coming on board, you can take the time to really review the past of how we got to this point, and then that's kind of the starting point. So meeting two was awesome. So it's a bunch of people who love puzzles, right? Like love puzzles. So we value input from the community. So the reason why I say that is we started talking about the idea of a survey of how to get feedback. So there's more of a traditional survey that we've done in the past and what other districts have done. We look for other districts, so I won't name the district, but we looked at what survey they put out because they're working on a calendar right now. Not every district puts out a survey to kind of get feedback. So we had talked about the idea of a survey, and then there's thought exchange. And at the end of this presentation, if there's any questions about thought exchange, I will pull up our expert, Mike Hausman, who will answer any questions about thought exchange. But thought exchange is a way where it's not traditional questions. It's more of led by the community's discussion. So it's not planning to see what a calendar could look like. It's just really open-ended question, and then you kind of sit back and see where it goes. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And then we talked about values. I won't go over all eight different values, but like examples of the values, the same thing, when you're building a master schedule for a school, like you start with a value statement. So for us, we started looking at values and what the community values, the committee values. And like, for example, like uninterrupted times, less broken weeks. One time we had a calendar that had a lot of broken weeks, so we definitely want to continue that. And then consistency, predictability, and then representing a majority versus minority voices. So you don't really want to gauge one voice that dictates the whole calendar. And then honor feedback from all. And then those are the dates. We met on the 12th and 19th, and we meet every Tuesday up until hopefully bringing the board study session on November 1st. So I'll pause there. Can I answer any questions? Dr. Lessem is on the calendar committee too. She had said how excited she was at the last board meeting, so hopefully she has that smile of continuing that excitement after 2 awesome events.
Calendar questions? Amy? Mm-mm. Stu?
So I mentioned earlier, Bill, that this morning I attended the board meeting of the Berthoud Schools Fund, and after the meeting was concluded, they wanted to talk to me about things related to the calendar and the calendar committee. And the topics that came up were, where were we on the discussion of a 4-day week? And I said, we haven't talked about that, but apparently there's buzz on Facebook about that. They wanted to know where we were on starting after Labor Day. And of course, that's a topic that we have talked about and we've had quite a lot of feedback about. So where I'm going with this is actually leading to a question, and that is, when the calendar committee makes its recommendations, will you tell us why you decided to recommend or not recommend a 4-day week? Why you decided to recommend or not recommend starting after Labor Day, and any other solutions, any other ideas, major ideas that were actually presented?
I think it's a great question. Yes, it won't be me, like it'll be a committee that will come and present like we've done in the past. But just to highlight some things, like it's great feedback, right? Depending which survey we go, like that information would be great too. I'll bring it back to the calendar committee about the 4-day. What that could look like. The highlight, I just want to briefly touch base. At times people are thinking of, after Labor Day. Just a couple things, like planting the seed of, if you're starting after Labor Day, that's 3 weeks in. That's 3 weeks less of instruction for state testing. The other thing, it pushes it into June, and then as far as consistency with other districts. So that's a part of a survey that we looked at. Like if you want this, then you have to sacrifice in these different areas. The reason why I say, depending who's watching tonight, and it might be a hot topic around that, where those are some things people don't consider. And the other thing is, so do you want heat in August or do you want heat in June, right? Because then you'd have to extend into June. So yeah, I'll take that back, Stu. I really appreciate that feedback to the committee on Tuesday.
Just real quick, I would add that on the thought exchange versus a survey, I would say that the thought exchange, it was used in DAC for a couple things. I found it much more beneficial than a survey, only in that they're able to like put in a whole bunch of their own words, their own thoughts, versus this predetermined survey. They can do only A, B, C, or D, but the thought exchange, somehow it coalesces it all into something that makes sense. But I thought this might be a good exercise
Right.
for that, where people could feel like they had more input.
Well, it's great feedback. So the conversation we had about thought exchange, at times people don't understand it because they don't really know it because they haven't had the experience. So what I did was I sent out a thought exchange just to calendar committee with a general question, just so people can see the process of what it looked like. And then we'll have the discussion on Tuesday of the results. So then people can kind of see that before we vote in which direction. So thank you for that feedback.
Anything else? All right, thank you, Dr. Sievers.
Thank you.
All right. Our next item is written reports. There are two of them. 8.1 is Families Partnering in Education, and that would be the PI Early Childhood Report, and then a monthly financial report. So are there requests for information? All right, I'm going to adjourn this meeting.